Welcome to the Endangered Species Series. My name's Trent Paterson. I'll be presenting on the coastal emu subpopulation. So we'll go through some quick emu facts, explain why emus are important as a keystone species, cover the decline of the coastal emu subpopulation, talk about their current threats and conservation measures, and then we'll wrap up with a summary and do some question and answers. So some facts about the emu. He's a large flightless bird of the radite group. So it includes the cassowary of northern Australia, the African ostrich, the South American rhea, the New Zealand kiwi, and the extinct moa. He's diurnal, so he's active during the day. He's a generalist omnivore, so he's got a pretty broad diet, mostly insects, seeds, fruits, a bit of other plant material. So a grown adult can consume up to 5 litres a day, which is quite a lot of water. They utilise most habitat types, so they're not too fussy as long as there's food and water available. And they're highly mobile and nomadic. So they will travel great distances to seek out food and water, and an individual bird might travel up to 15 to 20 kilometres per day and cover a nomadic range of, say, 600 kilometres, which is, obviously quite a pretty big range for a flightless bird. Why are emus so important? We refer to an emu as a non-standard agent for seed dispersal. So they disperse seeds via a process called endozukery. So they consume the seed, it travels through their digestive system, and when it exits the digestive system, as in the picture on the right, the seed germinates from there. Given their broad diet, they eat quite a wide range of seeds and fruit with all sorts of different morphologies. And these morphologies are generally meant to disperse the seed over short distances, not long distances. So the diverse diet, which we talked about, the birds also have long gut retention, and their exceptional mobility, which we talked about, so they will travel large distances. That gives them the ability to disperse a wide range of plants over, some great distances. So they do play a real crucial role in all ecosystems, but especially in fragmented landscapes or in regards to climate change. They are becoming more important. And it's believed that via a process called directed dispersal, so the introduction of emus into disturbed ecosystems, we may be able to help restore a lot of the ecosystem functions. So a bit about the decline of this coastal emu subpopulation. So firstly, when we talk about the coastal corridor, I'm referring to the area in the map there, coloured in the dark purple. So it's the area east of the Great Dividing Range, which is a 3,500 kilometre range, which separates the coastal regions from the inland Australia. So pre-colonisation, emus occurred over all habitats in Australia, especially southern Australia, including Tasmania. But by the 1900s, with the expansion of agriculture, especially, emus became extinct in Tasmania. So there was subpopulations in very distinct, genetically distinct subpopulations in Tasmania, King Island, Kangaroo Island. They all became extinct, and the communities along that eastern corridor they were all in rapid decline as well. So continued isolation of those East Coast communities or subpopulations eventually led to a lot of local extinctions. So presently on the East Coast, there is only approximately, we're not sure, but approximately 50 emus remaining in that eastern corridor. And they are all confined to the Yuraygir National Park and a bit of the surrounding agricultural area. Just a bit more about the range and habitat. So the Yuraygir National Park, where the emus are confined to, it protects 60 kilometres of coastline in northern New South Wales. So if you have a look at the map on the right there, it's on the north coast of New South Wales, and it's roughly about 2 to 3 hours south of the Queensland border. It's one of the most diverse coastal ecosystems in the world. It contains, that's in terms of both flora and fauna. It contains, numerous threatened and endangered species, and it is the longest stretch of protected coastline in Australia. And most of the park's utilised by the emu, so he's utilising all the coastal dune forests, the forested wetlands, and all the maritime grassland and coastal heath area. And it's really important to note here that similar plant communities occur all along the north coast of New South Wales. And in fact, similar complexes occur further south and are actually protected by national parks. The IUCN status is a bit funny here. So the common emu, let's call it the mainland emu, is listed as of least concern under the IUCN. So there is about roughly 750,000 emus in Australia, and there's more overseas where they're used for various agricultural purposes. However, the coastal emu is listed as endangered by the New South Wales Office of Environment and Heritage. Also, it's worth noting a population of this size, so it probably is around that less than 50 individual mark, it would qualify for critically endangered status under IUCN criteria D1 for small populations. And at present, there actually is no Commonwealth listing for the coastal emu in Australia. Some of the key threats are vehicular collisions, so road strikes. There's a lot of roads adjacent to the national park and even through the national park. Feral animals like wild pigs, dogs, cats, foxes, they will prey on chicks. And also bushfires can lead to direct mortality or they can render habitat unavailable. Fencing's probably a big one for the coastal emu, given his isolation. The fences restrict his movement across those adjacent agricultural lands. Also, the barbed wire used in a lot of the fencing, emus do get caught quite easily in it, and they get sort of tangled up in quite a mess. This subpopulation also, very recently, they've found there is low genetic diversity and inbreeding within this subpopulation. The genetics are quite different to the wider emu population. Low genetic diversity, it can lead to things like low reproductive success. They can become more susceptible to disease and less likely to adapt to changes such as the big one, climate change. So given the emu's isolation, he's not able to move. He's not able to change his range. So if that habitat does become unsuitable, then yeah, he will face, definite extinction. So the graph on the left, it really shows the areas in orange show where suitable habitat will will contract, and the green areas show where suitable habitat will expand. So it really shows that within that Yuraygir National Park area, the current range that the emus are utilising now will mostly become unsuitable by 2045. And I included the chart on the right. That's using the same pathway and model. That's for 2085, and it shows quite a large stretch along that north coast will be unsuitable, but further south there is quite a lot of areas within national parks along the coast where the habitat will be quite almost perfect for these coastal emus to move to if they are able to. So some of the conservation measures, there is a lot being done as far as conservation. Vehicular collisions, there's reduced speed signs in place. There's roadside signage. There's still a lot of road strikes, but there is a lot being done in that space. Feral animal control, there really needs to be a lot of liaison between the organisations such as National Parks and Wildlife Service, Local Land Service, and even private landowners to ensure that there's control on both public and private lands. And I guess feral animal control, it can be a bit of a controversial topic at times, but problems like this highlight the importance of it. And also, it has been suggested that if you can identify nests, you can establish fenced exclusion zones to help in breeding success. They have about a 2-month incubation period, and during that time, there's a lot of feral and native animals that do prey on the eggs. That seems like quite a logical measure. Bushfires, yeah, we just need, like in all places along the coast, we need controlled burns in those cooler months. Fencing, so there needs to be wildlife corridors throughout, allowing movement between Yuraygir and adjacent national parks and state forests, and also emu safe fencing just to allow the emus there to move through those agricultural lands that abut the national park. As for low genetic diversity, it hasn't been done yet, but essentially a breed and release program would involve the introduction of emus from the largest stock into a breeding program with these individuals from the subpopulation, and then actually release them back into the wild. Also, climate change. This is a big one, hasn't been looked at, but like we saw with those climate projections, there is a lot of habitat along the coast, and I guess pre-colonization, emus were very common along the eastern corridor. So it does make a lot of sense that emus are translocated or rewild into those national parks, especially given their ecosystem function that they provide. Also, like community awareness, so we really need a bit of activism to get those listings, the proper listing for the species. Even though it's just a subpopulation, I think it sort of gets overlooked on some of the IUCN listings. That sort of fragmentation, isolation of populations is a mechanism through which species can become extinct as a whole. There are community programs and activism happening, but just needs a bit of support. Also, citizen science and eco-volunteering initiatives. So the more the general public get involved with non-scientific and scientific studies into this emu, the more awareness will be raised. And I did include an example of a citizen science project I thought was good, that someone put together, and it's a simple mapping application, where people can enter sightings of emus in that area. So clearly, you can see the dots here. They're mostly along roads, but clearly, yeah, a lot of people aren't going to see the emus that are deep within the national park. But these sort of things, yeah, even though it's citizen science, it does provide some data that may indicate, if the subpopulation is in decline or increasing, for example. So some closing remarks. This is really a good example of the coastal emu is a great example of an isolated subpopulation that faces extinction. It's an important keystone species in the ecosystem, the environment it is in. So it really helps maintain the structure and biodiversity of the ecosystem. And it's the isolation and restricted mobility that makes it particularly vulnerable to the major threats like climate change, which may present the biggest extinction threat to that subpopulation. And really, proper conservation status must be sought at all levels, local, national, and international level. To learn more about this endangered species series, you can follow us on our social media channels. And thank you for joining today, and I hope you found this engaging.